Hello, and welcome back to the Paddocks. Summer break is finally over, and we are back with race weekends. Thank goodness. This weekend, we're covering the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort with Amy, Rachel, and myself, Melissa. Now, let's get this episode going with some exciting news that was released leading up to the big event.
I think the most exciting news for us to the PGP girls is that Jack Doohan finally has been announced as the second Alpine driver for 2025. We are so thrilled with this announcement. Pretty sure I heard Amy scream all the way over here on the West Coast. We've been saying since the beginning that Jack 100% deserves the seat. And I'm so excited to see him on the grid next year. He's worked so hard for this.
Yes, I screamed. I'm sorry, but I'm really not even a little bit sorry. We have been quite literally begging for rookies to get a chance, and Rachel and I have been absolutely manifesting for Jack. I am so excited. I'm so happy for him. There's a little video on the Alpine social medias where you can see his driver tag has a photo of him as a little kid, and oh my god, the way I wanted to cry, y'all. It's so cute. But as a diehard Jack Doohan fan, I am super excited for the idea of new Doing Okay merch. Yes, this kid has a merch line, and honestly, the previous launches have been so good. I'm really kind of excited. I feel like Alpine now has two drivers that both put out really good merch. Not that Esty doesn't do good merch, but I feel like Esteban's merch and Pierre's merch don't really match. I feel like Pierre's and Jack's will vibe a little bit better together. They're a little bit more similar in style. We have another Aussie on the grid. All our Aussie fans now have the ability to have turf wars because it can now be a regional battle. And I think that's so freaking cute because we now have yet another Aussie on the grid. Do we really need another one? No. Will we complain? Abso-freaking-lutely not.
Yeah, whatever manifestations things Amy and Rach did, both of y'all just continue doing it because I'm rooting for a very specific driver to return to the grid. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But I'm so happy for Jack to be on the grid next year. We've all vouched for rookies to be given the chance, and I feel like his chance is like long overdue, and I'm just excited to see how it plays out between him and Pierre. Because at least Alpine doesn't have to worry about the French Civil War no more. But I think the cutest thing that came out of it, I saw I don't know if it was him or Alpine or just like a fan page on Twitter where Jack had a picture with Michael Schumacher when Jack was little. And then the next picture was Jack with his contract. And I was just like, I just love how all the F1 drivers, one way or another, have a connection with the Schumacher family. And I'm like, it's just beautiful to see. And my heart was just like, oh, so cute.
That was on Jack's TikTok. I saw that and I was like, dude, I can't cry this early in the morning. Thank you. And I love that like Mick Schumacher his first name is Jack's dad's name. I think that's so sweet. I love that they're childhood besties. It's so cute. But we also have to quickly mention this was Max's 200th race in F1, which is just insane to think about because he's literally my age. He's actually not even my age yet. He doesn't turn 27 until like October. So he's still 26. I love how when during media day he was asked if he'd be here for another two races, he was like immediately, he was just like, no. He's like, I'm not doing that. We all know the man would rather be on the sim doing iRacing than driving in F1. I think that's evident.
It's the way he said it for me. Like, I literally was just dying because he was so serious and just like straight to the point. But I wouldn't be surprised if he builds his own team, whether it's like a sim racing team or an actual like F1 or even like F2 team, and like he runs it himself. The man has like a lot of knowledge, obviously, and I don't think it should be wasted. I think it definitely should be used, whether it's his own thing or with Red Bull or something like that along the lines.
So Max does have his own sim team. It's called Redline Racing. And he does technically also have the Verstappen.com has a physical race car. I think it's a Porsche GT. I think, don't quote me. I can't remember exactly what make the car is, but he does have a physical racing team as well. I would love to see him grow out Redline Racing, the sim team. I just think it's gaining popularity, and I think it's something that, like, with his name would do fantastic. I feel like a lot of people don't realize Redline Racing is Max's team because Redline Racing doesn't necessarily sound like it's Max Verstappen's brand. If I'm being really honest, I would maybe rebrand it. Would he ever do that? No, at this point, it's probably a little late to do a rebrand.
He did also say that he wants to expand Verstappen.com racing. Like when he's done with F1, he does want to expand that. And I think his dad drives under Verstappen.com and like rally car or something. But I think the biggest drama that came out of the weekend was Haas getting sued by their former sponsor, Uralkali. I don't know. It's Russian. And allegedly in the first place, it was allegedly they wouldn't be able to take their cars out of the Netherlands. They wouldn't be able to leave, which means they wouldn't be able to compete in Monza if they didn't pay. And so they were supposed to pay $13 million. They were like, we're not doing that. And then the Dutch court was like, no, you have to pay at least $9 million. You do owe them money. And so they set a payment deadline for July, and Haas was just like, no thanks. And they missed the deadline. So Uralkali decided to escalate the matter and is now requesting for Haas assets to be seized. Allegedly, this at least includes one of the cars. There was a provisional ruling that was granted in Uralkali's favor. Haas got a lovely visit from the Dutch bailiffs to take stock of their assets Thursday night. And then there was an agreement that Haas's participation in this weekend's GP could proceed as normal. I mean, they're already there. Everything's already unpacked. Might as well. But they were told they cannot remove the cars or equipment from the country until the payment has been made. Haas did make a statement that they, quote, fully intend to pay Uralkali all amounts due pursuant to the arbitration award. And there's no dispute over the amounts owed. They said, we will continue working with Uralkali in the coming days to resolve this matter definitively. Then it was announced Saturday morning that a payment had been made late Friday night. However, because it's the weekend and the banks are kind of closed, Uralkali has not received that payment yet. So Haas is not allowed to leave the Netherlands until it is received per the court order. So they are still presently stuck in Zandvoort.
You can't make this shit up. This is literally the craziest thing I have ever heard in Formula One, ever. I have so many questions, so few answers. This feels like this is out of a telenovela or a soap opera. Like, did somebody write this? Is this a script for a movie? Make it make sense, please.
No, seriously, because like all year I've just been saying what is going on with Haas, especially this season. I think the funniest thing I saw come out of this on Twitter was like Haas was going to need to sell Ollie to One Direction to pay Uralkali. And when like the announcement came out that like they had paid him and everything, they're like, oh, looks like they don't have to sell Ollie to Haas. But it's pretty unfortunate that they can't even leave the Netherlands in general, even given the fact that they paid and the banks are closed and whatnot. But I just want to know where the heck Haas has this $9 million, because we all know it. They probably don't. Andretti, get on the phone ASAP and help them out.
Literally, just insane. It's Force India all over again, if we're being realistic. But in car news, Williams brought some upgrades this weekend. Mainly, they fitted new side pods onto both cars and an all-new floor geometry for the underbody, the edges and the inlet vanes, and a new air intake cover. So, hopefully they can work better, but we'll see.
And then, thankfully, after a very, very long summer break, we are greeted back with David Coulthard. And honestly, the way I needed that, like, I think I would have been actually offended if he wasn't part of the F1 TV team for the first race back after break, because I just love that man so very much.
Agreed. I love DC. I wish he would be a permanent commentator. But between him and Joylyn Palmer and their sass this weekend was just incredible.
It felt like everybody missed F1, but one thing that if you did not notice, Ruth Buscum is no longer just Ruth Buscum. She is Ruth Buscum Divey because she got married. And she got married on August 3rd. So congratulations, Ruth. We love you. Oh my God. Every time they kept saying her new full name, I just got like butterflies because it just made my heart happy.
Literally, I saw her wedding photos and I was like, oh my God, they're so cute. She looks so pretty. I'm so happy for her. I love her so much. I love her commentary. I learned so much from her, and it's incredible. Now, starting into the weekend with free practice 1 on Friday, it was a wet session. It was very rainy, apparently. Alex Jakes and Joylyn Palmer were like, it's raining sideways. Is it raining They kept asking each other if it was raining sideways, and it was like, yeah. So shout out to the general admission fans at Zandvoort. You are truly our strongest soldiers. Shout out to our PGP girl, KC. She was out there because my ass would have gone home. At the first drop of rain, I'd be like, nah, I'm out. I would take the 90-degree plus heat with 50% plus humidity in Texas over intense rain and 15-mile-an-hour winds. Give me the heat any day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, because if I would have saw or seen it raining sideways, I would have left so quick. I usually don't mind rains as a girl that's gone to festivals in the rain and mud and everything. You gotta thug it out. But if I don't have something covering me in that type of condition, yeah, I'm out. But I do love wet conditions on race weekend.
When they were asking if it was raining sideways, as a girl who is from the East Coast, where it does rain sideways quite often, honestly, that made me laugh, because some of my friends that live in the South or live on the West Coast don't necessarily understand the weird weather, or if I say I can smell it raining or it's gonna rain and you just like know it because it's in the air. The weather in Zandvoort is just always keeping us on our toes. It's always going to make you need to pack for all potential options of weather if you are attending. If anybody ever plans to attend, have fun figuring out how to pack all your stuff, because at least with like Coda, you don't want to bring a ton of stuff because you don't want to carry it around. I don't know how I would have packed for Zandvoort. That's got to be rough.
Yeah, the only time I've seen it rain sideways is hurricane season in Texas, and that's just like occasionally for San Antonio. But the rain did stop Friday afternoon, and the track was relatively dry by the time free practice 2 rolled around, so everyone was using their standard tire compounds instead of inters or wets. Hulkenberg did crash out a little bit, but he was completely okay. He was out of the car. Red flagged the session briefly. I think the front of his car was damaged. The front wing was what got damaged, so pretty minor. Free practice 3 had a little bit more excitement. It was pretty rainy. A lot of the drivers were on full wets. Few were on inters. Nico had another little accident. And then watching it back, though, it seemed like they should have all been on full wets. Cars were going kind of sliding off left and right. It just didn't seem safe. And Logan had a massive crash about 15 minutes into the session when he was coming out of turn 3. He kind of like went slightly into the grass and he lost traction and he slid out, crashed into the barriers at almost full speed, and his car ended up catching on fire. So that was really fun. Luckily he was okay. He wasn't burned and he was able to get out of the car. And the marshals were able to get the fire put out pretty quickly. I will say, just like a side note, I love when they are bringing the damaged cars back into the paddock on the trucks and the entire team comes out to try to keep all of the cameras and everybody from seeing the car and, you know, seeing all the components and stuff, because the teams sometimes want to know. And they just get so creative with their methods. I saw one Williams guy, he just walked right in front of the camera. He was on the phone. And he just walked right in front and it was just like right here. And he stayed there and the camera kept trying to move and he moved with it. And I was like, you know what? Good on you. That was a great cover. The crash red flagged the session, obviously. And then they ended up restarting free practice with 2 minutes left in the session, which was a very interesting decision, in my opinion.
Now, as you all know, I'm typically not awake for the practice session, so kudos to Rach for waking up early on that West Coast time. But watching that video of the crash that Logan went through was insane. I, for one, am glad that he made it out okay and safely. That's the most important part, because I feel for the kid. He's trying his best, and it just seems like it's not working in his favor. And we can go deeper into this whole conversation, especially with the three of us going to war for Logan at any moment. But as always, I just hope he doesn't let it get it too much into his head, because if I were him, I would just throw the towel myself at this point. Like, be like, you know what? I'm cursed, or I just don't have luck, and find me at Indy. Goodbye.
I just want to know what karmic cycle he's on to, like, deserve all of this. Because it's a lot for, like, a 23-year-old. I feel so bad for the kid. On the restart for free practice, the final 2 minutes, still don't understand that. Max going out of the pit lane was so impatient. It was giving LA driver trying to merge onto the 405 in rush hour. And due to the red flag and the 2 minutes, it was very minimal running. Everyone was going like as quickly as they could on their out laps and everything. The final classification for FP3 was pretty wild, to say the least. The top three were Gasly, Magnussen, and Bottas. An Alpine, Haas, and a Sauber.
I do love when we have a wild card for the top three when stuff like this happens, because all I can think about is just the noise the crowd would make if those three drivers in the unfortunately bottom three teams were to finish out in the top three on the podium come race day. The crowd will go feral. Everyone will go feral, if we're being honest. And it's just like, what if? I love it, but it's hilarious to see.
It reminds me of Brazil last year when that massive storm rolled in and Lance Stroll it was a massive storm during qualifying and Lance Stroll ended up third. And everyone was like, okay. And quali at Zandvoort was, I think, relatively normal, standard. Logan did not take place in qualifying, obviously, due to his crash in P3. There was not enough time to get that car up and running again. Little bit of drama towards the end with Checo saying that Hamilton impeded him, and Hamilton said he was out of his way, which, of course, went under investigation by the stewards, as always.
These men love to tattle on each other. I swear to God. They're like my age and they're acting like children sometimes, but that's a whole different story. George, on the other hand, seemed stressed with Mercedes. I felt a little bad for him. I don't know what didn't get explained to him or something, but he was just stressing. The Alpine boys, on the other hand, decided at one point they wanted to sandwich a Red Bull in the queue, which just kind of made me giggle for some reason. Maybe it's that I've been without the sound of engines on a Sunday morning or on a Saturday morning. Maybe it's just Alpine boys being the Alpine boys. I don't know. Max had some issues with the car during Q1. Seemed like he was just sliding. It just didn't seem like the car was on like we're used to seeing. Carlos going from the drop zone to completely safe impressed me. I am sitting there going, okay, that's possible because you're in a Ferrari, but like, I'm sorry, my dude, that's not going to be your new normal when you switch teams next year. I'm sorry. They just don't have the pace. I hate to tell you. At the end, we lost Danny, Esty, Valtteri, Zhou, and Logan because and Logan because Logan didn't get to set a lap time. Esty seemed to be really snarky with his radio comments, and like, I get it, but at least give the team real feedback aside from the car being, quote, terrible. That's not very helpful. Constructive criticism is appreciated, but just like bitching to bitch isn't. Pardon my French.
I agree. At this point, I feel like Esteban is just mentally checked out and ready for the 2025 season with Haas, if that team even exists come next year, if we're being honest. Don't want him off the grid, but we're being realistic here.
I didn't even think about that, Mel. Oh my God. Like I said, I loved getting to hear Ruth Buscombe's new married name during commentary. It just made my heart so happy because it just does.
We also had some pretty dark clouds in the sky, so the teams were watching those weather radars very closely. I think we learned with Spa that when it comes to the Netherlands and Belgium, the weather radar doesn't really mean much. The weather's going to do what it wants to do, especially with Zandvoort being like right next to the North Sea. The North Sea terrifies me. Absolutely not.
You never know what you're going to get with Zandvoort ever. So looking at a weather radar probably really is like just looking at a craps table. You have no idea what you're going to get. It is what it is. At the end of Q2, we lost Carlos, Lewis, Yuki, Nico, and Kevin Magnussen. Between sessions, I, as a Massachusetts girl, was a little perplexed hearing Sweet Caroline because I just didn't have that on my bingo card. I guess it decided it wanted to just remind me where I'm from for a hot sec. Thanks, universe. I will say I find it very interesting when we find out from like Ruth or somebody on the commentary team that like a team has split their car setups and have one driver doing a high downforce versus one driver doing a low downforce. And Mercedes did that in quali, and I feel like they really took a gamble with the boys, and I don't really know if it paid off, and I kind of feel bad.
I don't understand what Mercedes is doing half the time and always deciding to take a gamble with their drivers during quali sessions, because besides splitting their cars, one having high downforce and the other one low, they always wait till the possible like last minute to send George and Lewis out on track to put in their times. And luckily they're great drivers, so like it's not a worry, but it's not good for us fans. Plus it's a risky game they're playing because I don't know, it can pay off, but I feel like this weekend, this round, it really didn't, if you ask me.
And in Q3, Lando Norris was absolutely on one. I mean, I know it's the end of summer break. You're coming back refreshed, but I just did not expect to see that from him. He looked great in the car. Max just seemed to be having more issues with the car. I don't know what's going on with Red Bull. It really hurts my soul, especially as the resident Red Bull girly. At the end of the session, your top 10 breaks down as follows. Lando Norris, P1, Max Verstappen, P2, Oscar Piastri, P3, George Russell, P4, Checo Perez, P5, Charles Leclerc, P6, Fernando Alonso, P7, Alex Albon, P8, Lance Stroll, P9, and Pierre Gasly in P10.
Post-quali, it was announced that Alex was getting investigated by the stewards because his floor body was found to be outside the regulatory volume in the regulations, and it was rumored that he could be disqualified from qualifying, which would drop him to the very back of the grid.
And a few hours or so after qualifying, it was officially announced that Alex was disqualified from quali due to technical noncompliance. Williams, quote, didn't dispute the calibration of the FIA measuring system and the measurements of the car, but stated that their own measurements have produced different results, which I just think is a little weird.
I think it's also a little bit weird and a little bit funny, I guess, that the upgrades that made James Vowles so upset at Logan's crash are the same upgrades that got Alex disqualified from qualifying. Just a little bit funny.
With Alex's disqualification, it does mean that Lance Stroll moved up to 8th, Pierre moved up to 9th, and Carlos moved up to 10th. Alex started the race in 19th. And I saw this on Twitter. This is per Chris Medlin. If you do not follow him, I highly recommend him. He's one of my favorites. He's someone I have the notifications turned on for because I just feel like he's always giving me what I need to know. And he said that Williams said, "We are incredibly disappointed with this outcome and will be carrying out a thorough investigation and will provide an update soon," which I just feel a little like heads are going to start rolling at Williams headquarters. Don't ask me why. I just feel like it's the truth. And we do have another little post-qualifying update, which was the fact that Lewis Hamilton received a 3-place grid penalty for impeding Checo in Q1. Listen. I know it's the first week back to work after a long summer break, guys, but can we get it together a little bit, please?
I blame Mercury retrograde. It's pretty standard. Mercury retrograde is just gonna fuck shit up.
Now, of course, the drama in the Haas garage did not end with the whole suing and all that stuff from your colleague. Because, of course, K-Mag started from the pit lane for the race due to some new power unit elements.
Haas, why are you just so chaotic? I feel like they're the definition of Hot Mess Express, to be really honest, guys.
Now, for the start of the race, it looked like Lando and Max each did have decent starts, as per the commentators even said so. But Max just took that lead real quick, to say the least.
Girl, he made that look easy. Like, way too easy. I mean, Lando, I think, had a little bit of like a wheel spin or something like that. There was like a little issue for him, from what I heard David Coulthard say, at least. But Max just made that look easy.
Way too easy, because I always wish Lando would just fight him a little bit more. Just give him a little bit of a challenge, but I get it. It's like the race had barely started, so like, yeah, it's a little dangerous, but come on, like, give us a little something. Don't give that spot up too easy.
So Lando and Max actually had the same reaction time. They both had a 5.64 second reaction time. It's the McLaren that's just like doesn't want to start. Because Oscar also had kind of a little bit of an issue too. So I think if the McLaren was on par with the Red Bull for like how the car reacts to starting, I don't think that Max would have taken that lead. But yeah, I find it really interesting that they had the exact same reaction time, but Max was still able to get around Lando so quickly.
Max just kind of felt like a man on a mission to me. I love watching Zandvoort. It is one of my favorite tracks. I forgot how much I loved the banking on this track. It's just like really different. I feel like it stands out. I hated that we had such a long break from Zandvoort, but it's good to be back, guys.
Same. It's definitely a race that I want to go to in the future. The banking is just so cool to see. I want to see it in person. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm with you on with that one. It's just, it looks like so much fun, especially with the curves. When I was watching that race, it reminded me of that one ride in Epcot, for my Disney people, test ride or test pilot, test something, test track. Essentially, like you're in a speedster type car and like you're just going at like, I don't know how many G-forces and everything. It just reminds me of that. And I'm like, oh, that looks like fun. Like I would like to do a little, I forgot what they call it, but when like celebrities go in the cars with the drivers and everything, and do that lap around.
Hot lap.
Thank you. I was like about to say Hot Wheels.
Mel, I love you.
Listen, y'all, my knowledge is still growing with this sport. I forget a lot of things sometimes. But it definitely looked like at very early on in the race that we were about to have a Russell DRS train because we know how hard it is to overtake at that track in general. So I was just like, oh my God.
For the love of God, no. Please, no. I could not handle a George Russell DRS train. I just, no. No, not for my first race back. Please, no. McLaren was ready to piss me off because they were trying to start with Lando and I just, no. Guys, don't do this. Please, no.
Yeah, if you ask me, they need lessons on what to say over the radio because I feel like it's just not helping the team in general, in my very humble opinion.
No, because, like, why were they asking him strategy questions? And not like they asked Oscar, do you want to go with plan A or plan B? They were asking him, like, questions about what he wants to... I don't know, but last I checked, he was the driver, not the strategist. Ask him plan A or plan B like you do with Oscar. I don't understand why you're asking him if he thinks that he has, like, how the tires are. I don't even know.
It's the first race back from summer break, and apparently people don't have their stuff together. What do we want to do? I don't know. But Carlos friggin' Sainz, chilly. That overtake with the banking on Fernando Alonso was just clean. That looked beautiful. I don't know. Oh, that was really nice. That made my heart happy.
And speaking of making my heart happy, Lewis was also a man on a mission. A different mission, of course, because he had moved up like 3 spots from the start, and he was just moving in silence, but moving right along. And, of course, speaking of Chile, that overtake with Pierre, it got super close, which is not good for my nerves, but that was nice to watch.
Pierre was not willing to go down without a fight. I mean, I get it, but also, dude, it's only lap 12. Like, you can get him back. You don't need to fight quite to the death like that, please.
Now, what's been killing me lately is that McLaren are taking notes from Ferrari with their alphabet plans. They're literally like, we're going to go with plan A this time. And I'm like, are you guys Ferrari 2.0? Because we've seen some similarities with other stuff, too.
Lando seemed to stick to Max like glue, or at least as close as he could get at the beginning of the race. I have to say that really impressed me. That's not necessarily always an easy thing to do.
Now, speaking of questionable strategy decisions, Williams, Why are you pitting Alex Albon on lap 13 for what's usually like a one-stop race? Why? What was the reason?
Exactly, because that race is like 72 laps in total. I don't know. Their minds are just elsewhere. But I know it's like early on in the race when I had like wrote this note down, but I was pretty happy that Max wasn't taking the lead with like a gap over 5 seconds like he has in the past, because we have seen him just take the lead and be gone with the win. And I mean, it is fun, but it's also nice just to see that he has a challenge.
Now, I know Rachel definitely heard me scream for a hot sec because Alexander Albon with the fastest lap on a pair of hard tires? Don't mind me picking my jaw up off the floor. That was just not on the bingo card for me.
With Alex, those were also fresh hards, which is like, it usually takes those a little while to like get going. But Lando with that pass, getting in the lead, I mean, incredible. It was so good.
But yeah, no, I did not see that coming at all because I had looked away for like a hot second, and then I just see Lando in the lead, and I was just like, oh, okay, here we go.
I know I screamed, but I know for a fact that we all heard Meg scream because Lando in the lead. What other reaction is there to have? Max having tire issues really was not good for my heart, people. I was going through it a little bit this race.
Tire issues, steering issues on turn 10. He was saying on the radio it's not really like turning at all. And if you watch his onboards, it really wasn't. The car was not responding at all. Red Bull, it truly feels like Red Bull is being held together by duct tape, super glue, and Hannah Schmitz and Max. That team is falling apart.
GP is doing like the best he can here, people. Like they're trying.
GP is also holding that team together. Can't forget him. I also just keep forgetting how windy it is in Zandvoort. It might not be raining, but if you look at the flags in the background, that wind is insane.
I would simply just fly away.
I'm like 5'1". I would literally just blow away. It's fine. It's fine. Now, I do have to say, I love that David Coulthard was commentating on how, like, chill Lando can be sometimes, because I feel like David Coulthard gets me as, like, an F1 fan, because those are the things that I also pick up on.
And Maxie having more issues. Again, I think Red Bull truly is cursed at this point. There's no other explanation.
Now, I do have to say, as a Ferrari fan, seeing Red Bull struggle has been fun. But all of this happened recently just has me questioning a lot of things.
I really just need to have a chat with whoever cursed my team because it hurts, people. It hurts. I've already dealt with this before. Please, no.
I promise it wasn't me who cursed them. Swear, I promise. Now, one of the things I really heard to watch was that pit stop for Mercedes with George. 3.4 seconds. And I don't know. They've just been struggling with pit stops for a while. And it's just like at this point, I'm not surprised. But it's just been rough for them in general.
Thank God Red Bull didn't botch Max's pit stop because I got really worried for a hot second. I will say the reliability issues since Newey has stopped being involved with the car says so much. But also, like, guys, can we please fix Max's car? Because we all know he has the skill to drive. But if you give him a car that's got no reliability, there's really not much he can do.
Red Bull just got some big shoes to fill once he's gone for good and goes to whatever team Newey decides to go to.
So Newey's actually been gone. Like, when it was announced that he was leaving right then. Like, it was effective immediately. So he's just been gone. And he's like a god when it comes to aerodynamics. I don't know if anyone's like read or listened to the book. If you haven't, you should. It's so good. But that man is so brilliant. But speaking of botched stops, McLaren, a 3.1 second stop for Lando? What is happening? What are you doing?
Again, they're just taking notes from Ferrari. There's just no other excuse at this point.
And then, of course, Red Bull didn't botch Max's pit stop, but they did for Checo's a little bit. It was a 4.4, so that was a little yikes.
A little bit? 4.4 is not a little bit, babe. I was offended. What was that? Oh my God. Red Bull, what? Was half of your team sleeping? Because no. Oh my God. They've never done that. They're historically, I mean, the amount of pit stop awards they have, what was that?
You know how the teams stretch before the race, like the engineers and the mechanics and all that stuff? They need to add practicing pit stops as a team to that, because literally every single team was just struggling to get a nice, smooth, quick one. I swear all these teams are just on the hot mess express with these crappy stops.
I feel like a broken record, but summer break is supposed to bring you back refreshed. What happened, people? Did you party too hard?
Now, you know how some teams stretch before a race, like with their engineers and mechanics and whatnot? They need to add practicing pit stops as a team, because that will probably help them out, especially after a long summer holiday. But speaking of needing to practice, Gasly got noted for an unsafe release by the stewards. And it just seems like when something goes good for the team, it just goes back down and they just can't get it together.
He looked like he was going to take that pit guy's arm off. Just talk about unsafe.
Now, I literally didn't see that part, but like, come on, Pierre. I know there's a race happening and a race to get some points in, but like, safety first. I just feel like something with communication needs to be worked on as a whole.
Oscar Piastri was a kid on a mission. And I say kid because he is young compared to myself. I love him. I have just absolutely on the Oscar Piastri train, and I don't even care. My favorite thing this whole race, though, I have to say, was the cars everywhere on lap 41. 3 wide? Are you kidding me? On the main straight? My heart was in my throat.
And it wasn't just like the 3 in a row. There was like a good like 2 more. Just like it was like a whole like little like blurb of them. But I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty cool to watch, because it was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna like overtake and just like be gone? Now, of course, while all this was going on, seeing Lando with an 11-second lead, that was wild. And of course, speaking of wild, Ferrari literally have like a tractor this weekend. But I was pleasantly surprised to see Charles up there in the top 3 at this point in the race, because I was just like accepting somewhere in the top 10. And I can't record without mentioning Logan in P16 ahead of Yuki, K-Mag, and both Saubers. Like, that is my GOAT right there.
He truly is doing the best with what he's been given. I swear to God. That poor boy.
The way I am just ready to throw the whole Williams team in the trash right now, James Vowles, I swear, Rachel and I are watching you, because this is just becoming a problem.
Honestly, because why did they pit Albon for mediums? Just not even the freezer, deep freezer. Put them in the deep freezer.
I mean, they are required to do 2 compounds, so maybe I don't know. I don't know what to do with them anymore, guys.
He started on mediums. Started the race on mediums. They pitted him in lap 13 for hards. And then they pitted him again for mediums again. Why?
Yeah, no. To the freezer they frickin' go.
Now, we didn't have Lando being 11 seconds ahead, but we definitely didn't have Lando being 20 seconds ahead of Max on our bingo cards. Max getting a little taste of his own medicine.
He really is, because Lando got some of that pixie dust on him this weekend.
All of the pixie dust. That team got all of it. Oh my God. I will say, I feel like some of it definitely had to do with the fact that, like, his mom surprised him in the fan zone, which, by the way, made me want to cry, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. It was the cutest thing, but I feel like that definitely set the tone for Lando's weekend.
Now, I always love seeing who's going to be waving the checkered flag, and literally my EDM heart was screaming seeing Armin van Buuren waving that flag. And I just want to suggest Hardwell next year, FIA, F1, to wave the flag next year just to keep that Dutch DJ trend going.
I mean, there are so many Dutchy DJs in the world that are popular. So, like, you got options, people. But I have to say, I cannot be the only person who noticed that Yuki went down 6 spots from the start of the race to the end of the race. Yikes. I'm sorry. That actually kind of made me feel bad, but VCarb, get it together per usual, I guess. Lando Norris winning this race was not how I expected to come back from summer break, but I love it. He also snagged fastest lap, so hell yeah, kid. Go off.
And with this win, which was so exciting, the gap between Max and Lando in the Drivers' Championship is just 70 points. And we've got 9 races and 3 sprints left. And the gap between Red Bull and McLaren is 30 points. We definitely have a constructors title fight on our hands, and I'm thrilled.
Same here, because anything is possible at this point with how the season has been going so far, and I did not expect it to be like this year.
Lando Norris coming on the radio and going, was not how I expected him to kind of initially start his radio after a win. What was that, Lan? Oh my God.
Yeah, but he did say simply lovely, which is hilarious because if you know, it's Max Verstappen's little catchphrase. And just the fact that he was just like, simply lovely. Okay, Lan.
Maxie, he's coming for your catchphrase. I had to run that back, to be really honest, because I did not catch that at first. But the fact that Lando won by 22.8 seconds, I have no words. And he got the bonus points for fastest lap. Unwell. Absolutely mad.
Now, one thing I was really happy about was Charles in P3 in that Ferrari tractor. I know it's not a win, but P3 is still amazing. And to me, that's a win.
A win is a win. A win is a win. I loved how in his post-race interview in Parc Fermé, they're like, P3, and he's like, yeah, I'm surprised. Us too, babe. Us too. Because I don't think anyone really expected a Ferrari at this point in the season to be P3.
I will say I will forever love hearing Max get to speak in Dutch. Do I understand any of it? Absolutely not. Do I love hearing it? Yes.
Now, that post-race interview with Lando reminds me of that one video of little young Lando doing a post-race interview, like so politely, like so posh, just the way he's talking. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. It was deja vu right there.
Poor thing. He also just looked so tired. He looked exhausted. I was like, I really just want to be like, oh, babe, go take a nap. You need it. I think one of my favorite things, though, always and forever, Verstappen in the cool down room. I love them. They're a little bromance. It's so cute. But I loved how when Max told Charles the gap between him and Lando, Charles's face, man was having flashbacks from last year. He was like, I can't go through this again.
No, literally, that was the funniest thing. But at least Max is on the podium with his 2 besties.
The podcast is back, y'all, and it's my personal favorite trio. I mean, I definitely wasn't complaining, but like, can we also get more cool down room content, people? Because I feel like they gypped us a little bit this one.
Yeah, we definitely need more cool down room because I like seeing their reactions when they're watching what happened during the race and just their faces that they make. But I'm going to be honest, speaking about the cool down room, I'm just overhearing the commentators say, apologies for the language heard in the cool down room. One, you can barely hear them already. And two, it's just not that deep.
No, literally. Because, like, I get it because it's TV and whatever. But, like, I don't really think there's that many people that care that much. I think what really got me, though, was on the podium, the trophy being up to Lando's, like, mid-thigh. Just, I can't. And I have to mention, when Lando got his first win back in Miami, it was the same podium as today. It was Lando, Max, Charles, in that order. So I think we have a lucky trio.
And the champagne pop returns to the podium.
I think that was my favorite Lando champagne spray to date. Incredible. And I like how his engineer who was up there with him getting the constructor's trophy did the same little Lando pop. So cute.
I have said this before. I will say this again. I need to start practicing my Lando champagne pop. I need to figure it out. I can we get a slowed down video, please, so that I can study this.
That was truly an incredible race. And now for next week in Monza, I want to see a Ferrari win. I mean, it's the Italian Grand Prix. Monza is also one of my favorites, but a Ferrari win in Monza, I think, would just cleanse the timeline a little bit. If I'm being realistic, though, I think we'll get a McLaren 1 or 2 or 1-2, and probably a Red Bull somewhere up there. And by a Red Bull, I mean Max. And I think maybe a Ferrari if we don't get both McLarens. But that's the realistic side. I just want to see a Ferrari win on my delusional side, though. I'm also praying for Williams points. Unless they replace Logan for Monza, then the entire team is going in the freezer.
Like Rachel, I am looking forward to Monza too because it is one of my favorite tracks. I don't know. I guess just being a Ferrari fan is just fun to watch all that energy and everything. And again, I need Ferrari to win at Monza. Dare I say Charles win there? Like, poetic. However, we gotta go back to reality. And I can see either one of the McLaren boys taking that P1 spot. I would like to see Lewis up there again just because, think about it, it would be such a way to be welcomed by the Tifosi even more than getting a podium finish at this legendary track that we know it's going to be like red all over. Max will more than likely finish up there in the top 3 as well, but to be honest, I have a feeling it's going to be a tough fight for Max to finish up in the top 3. He's one hell of a driver, gotta give him credit there, but that Red Bull has just been something else. So I am interested to see how it turns out at this weekend.
Monza for me is literally one of my all-time favorite races. I honestly think it's going to end up being one of the European races that I try to go to first. But that's going to take me a little bit because those races are expensive, y'all. But per usual, I pulled out my pendulum for my predictions because what else do you guys expect me to do? So, P1. It seems like this is a man on a mission, and that is Lando Norris. I got the biggest yes for P1 for him, and I kind of won't complain. I'm going to manifest that for him because, yeah, I feel like I might actually, like, if Max isn't going to be the one to win the Drivers' Championship, I'd love to see it be Lando. I'm just going to speak that into existence a little bit. Sorry, Max, but it's the truth. P2, Carlos Sainz, Lando on the podium together at Monza. Hell yeah. Absolutely want to see that. P3, we have Max, because we all know that he is going to be out for blood. I just really hope that the team can provide him with a better car. If they can't provide him a better car, I think I might actually cry.
Now, I can't go anywhere until I mention what was arguably the best part of the weekend for me to see, and that is Oscar's sister, Hattie. She finally joined TikTok. She's so funny. I mean, that whole family is funny, but she's fantastic. She got their parents to do the brat dance from TikTok and posted it on TikTok with the race going on in the background. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's iconic. I think my favorite part was Nicole Piastri's just completely deadpan straight face the entire time, wearing a shirt that said Yuki is brat. Chef's kiss.
We are so back. I don't know about you guys, but I really missed F1 Vrooms over summer break. But they're back, so we don't need to worry anymore. Who doesn't love a good race recap? I know, I do. What are your predictions for Monza? Because we want to know. Make sure you let us know on our socials. Everywhere we are Paddock Girls Podcast, except for Twitter, where we are Paddock Girls Pod. If you are not on Threads, please come join us on Threads. We are posting there very frequently. That's my own shameless plug. If you want to come chat with me, that's where you'll find me the most. We will see you in the paddock next time in Monza. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.